Back, everyone. We have a special guest on the Mortgage Athlete Show here. Obviously, my co-host Tom Reber is here, but we have Brian Sexton with the Jacksonville Jaguars here. He's going to be speaking at the Mortgage Bankers Association meeting next month. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Wow. So we got Brian Sexton, the original voice of the Jaguars, here today. Brian and I have been friends for a long time. I've watched your career. I've listened to your career. You have made a mark on the 904 area code through the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're evolving your career into a national speaking piece, which we're excited to have you here today. We'd love to hear more about finding your frequency, is what you kind of put out there. Tell us a little bit about you. We're going to blend it together with the mortgage athletes and just kind of tie it all together. So let's rock and roll.
Well, look, 30 years in professional football, I've learned a lot, right? The positive people there would say, wow, you've called 3 AFC championship games. And the negative would say, man, you got some bad seasons to reflect on what didn't go right. That's life in professional football. You know, the team with the most wins is also the team with the most losses, the Chicago Bears. It evens itself out over time. When it's good, be good. When it's not good, work to be good.
Right.
I think that's a big piece. I mean, as mortgage athletes at the Mortgage Athlete Podcast, we like to talk as our mortgage professionals, as mortgage athletes, our real estate agent partners, our athletes as well. And you're constantly training. Yeah. You're constantly looking under every rock to find opportunities and find a way to monetize the relationships in a good way where it's a two-way street. As we evolve, I mean, we've learned a lot from the pandemic. I'm sure you have as well in the sports world. But just the grit, the absolute grit to sell in today's market with its ever-changing buyer's market, seller's market, rates up and down and sideways. You have to adapt it quickly and efficiently to the new frontier.
Well, I think I'm married to a realtor.
I know.
A very successful
Jennifer's
realtor.
a rock star.
And I have watched her work as hard as anyone since the pandemic to adjust to an ever-changing world. And she has. And so she's got grit. Thank God she's got a lot of grit.
Yes.
Because there's lots of challenges in that game.
Well, one of the things I've been talking with some of the agents here recently in the podcast is overcoming adversity. And I think we talk about a lot of the young people, the challenges and so forth, and what sports brings to that, especially for young people, whether they get cut for the team or they lose a game or whatever, and dealing with adversity. And as adults in the world, and as you were just talking to your wife, the dealing with adversity and then dealing with the change, the new game, the new coach that comes in, the new market, rates went up, right? That type of thing. Or, obviously the pandemic, which a lot of people are like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And all of a sudden, like, the floodgates opened, and it was how fast can you run, right? Yeah.
It was. And what do you want me to speak to here? I mean, I can talk about what she's done, but I can tell you in my own life where adversity has.
Yeah.
So I got the Jaguars job when I was 25 years old, right?
Wow.
I mean, Mr. Weaver, God bless him, was willing to give a young guy with an 8-man high school football tape, okay? that was my audition
That's a
tape.
Midwest thing.
And that's a longer story, and I don't want to take up all of your time, but I got that job, and for 20 years, I lived my dream. Yeah. And then Mr. Weaver sold the team. Yeah. And they brought in new management. Mark Lamping came in as the president. Yeah. Mark, by the way, is the guy who fired Jack Buck at KMOX, so I knew what was coming, or at least I had an idea that things were going to change. He's not scared of tradition. And so he made the change for his reasons, and it was very difficult for me. So finding my frequency meant trying to figure out how to keep doing something similar to professional football, because I love the Jaguars. It's an important part of my life and my story and my family. And how do I find a meaningful way to go forward? And there have been times where I felt, hey, I got it. And then there have been times I felt like, why did I stay? Right? I mean, I should have left. And at this point in time, finding my frequency meant trying to figure out what I do best, how to monetize that, right? How to make a living for myself and my family.
Right.
But how to create a space in life where I felt good about who I was and where I was at and how I was contributing to my community. And so adversity strikes everyone. There is no chance, right? What was it that was said? It isn't the wind that blows against you. It's not adversity. It's not sickness. It's not trouble. It's how you set your sail, right? Where do you go and find the breeze behind you, or do you just sit there and sit still? Yeah. So You know, I've dealt with it personally. I have 3 sons, and they're going to have it in their life. And I think the most important thing that I have learned from adversity is how to share that, right? How to help somebody get up and get back on their way, even when it seems impossible. It's never impossible. It just takes the strength of your heart and your mind.
Wow.
I always think back to I forget which Rocky it was, but Rocky's talking to his son, and how life can be rough, and you get knocked down, but you've got to get back up. And I think it's so important, especially for our young people today, to understand that. I think we're all roughly the same age. We've gone through. We went out there, got our face kicked in the dirt. Some of these kids are inside playing video games and watching YouTube all day, and all of a sudden they get out there to the real world and they're getting that shock. So I think it's so important. You talk about your sons, my son, to get out there and overcome, whether it's the scouts, get out there and kick the dirt and go sleep in the cold, or bugs, have the bugs eating your face. Look, that's adversity.
Yeah.
Since you bring it up, I'm an Eagle Scout. All 3 of my boys were Eagle Scouts.
Impressive.
So they were going to be, okay? Yeah. But especially in the technology-driven world, the virtual world, which gives us this kind of an opportunity to interact, and so it's meaningful.
Right.
Meaningful.
But life is a contact sport, and there is nothing like struggling up the side of a mountain in the rain in northern New Mexico at Philmont, right? You're hungry, you're tired, you're wet, and your dad's behind you saying,
good memory.
Yeah, you can't stop. I don't want to keep going. You
have to go.
Can't stop. Why can't I stop? Because you're going to slide back down that hill. Look, I don't care. You may find me dead on the side of the path, but I'm getting to the top, because at the top is the only place where there's a fire. There might or might not have been a nice little warm drink waiting for me on the other side of that, right? I'm getting to the top.
Right.
Come hell or high water, it doesn't matter. I'm getting to the top. So I really believe firmly that when you put your phone down and look someone in the eye and interact with them, right, and get to know them, that's what human life is all about. It's a contact sport, but it's also a sport. Life is a sport. It's the ability to connect.
That's right.
Right? And I think you don't do that in a virtual world as well as you do that one-on-one.
Right.
Yep. I tell people all the time, when they ask me what I do for a living, I say I interview people.
Yeah.
What's your name? What's your sign? Where are you from? I convert that into the mortgage space. Income, asset, credit brings collateral. You learn so much more from losses. The vitamins and the minerals that you receive from a loss are 10 times better than what you get from a win. Because when you think winning's easy, be careful. Humble pie will knock you off your shelf in a half a second, knock you down, and you're going to get the vitamins and minerals you need. Mortgage people are tough. I think as humans, as great humans, we're all built in with some grit and toughness as well. And I think we as leaders, whether it's our kids or others, we have to support, promote, push, and inspire.
Somebody once gave me the story. It's called the why before the how, right? You have to figure out why you're doing what you're doing, because it doesn't matter if you're in the mortgage game, my realtor wife, out trying to create a speaking career in a world where everyone's got a podcast and there's lots of speakers out there, right? How do I have the strength to go through and figure that out? Well, you got to figure out what your why is. Why are you doing it? Right? Why are you going out every day? Well, for most of us, it's to earn a living and feed our family. But you can do that a lot of different ways. I can go work at an Amazon warehouse, make $25 an hour, and not that that's a ton of money, but I can find a way to feed myself, no problem. But why am I going and trying to do something bigger, something more extraordinary than just figuring out a way through? Right. I'm doing that because it's what makes me my very best. It's how I take my 3 sons and help them be their very best. It's how I'm my best in my church community, right? With the Boy Scout troop that I work with, all the different groups that I am involved with. How do I present my best self? Well, I do that by going out every day and fighting through that stuff. And my why is that.
That's awesome.
I'll figure out how after I figure out why. If you don't figure out why, how never comes.
The why is the most powerful 3-letter word in our language. When you can define the why, we spend most of our adult lives taking the why out of little people, when we should say, ask that question again. Let's debate that and have a meaningful conversation with a 5-year-old. You'll go a long way. It's just amazing how the evolution has taken place where we are today, and the vision and the purpose that you have. I think you have to have a vision with a purpose and have a vision board and hit some sensitive goals.
Brian, touch a little bit on, you were 25 years old.
Yeah.
this brand new team coming into town, how you got the opportunity to be in front of the right person to obviously be interviewed, or however you were brought on to the Jaguars. But since then, I mean, when you're down there, I was talking to one of the big sponsors, and one of the advantages, he says, I was asking him, what's the advantage of spending the money and being a sponsor of the Jaguars? He was the people that you meet, the high level people, and how important it is to surround yourself with, being the fifth person in the room.
As far as I'm concerned, we talked about relationships and those things. I'll start anywhere. Right? I mean, I will walk into any Rotary Club meeting. I will spend time after church talking to a gentleman who wants to have a conversation. And there's a 90-year-old lady who reminds me every Saturday night after Mass that she has never missed a game. Oh. But when you talk, never missed a game, right? 90 years old. Wow. There are a couple games, as I look back, that I would have liked to have missed. and she tells me, yeah, me too, but I keep coming back. The question about surrounding yourself with that quality of person, that's how you figure out what your highest level is, right? My dad always used to say, find people who are smarter than you, who are more successful than you, who are better looking than you. And of course, he said that when I was 15, and I thought, what? Come on, Dad. I mean, you're making this impossible. But it's those people and their stories, right? And you interview people for a living just like I do. And the most important part of those engagements is to listen more than you talk. Yeah. In fact, that's one of my goals this year. I've never really achieved it.
That's one reason why I started the podcast.
Well, yes,
because
exactly.
it makes you focus on the person talking. Yeah. So when it is time to come back to ask a very quality question.
Right. Yeah. Listen more than you talk. And of course, when you go into an NFL building, you are surrounding yourself not just with athletes, but with coaches and business people who have achieved to a very high level to have gotten there. How? Why? Right? Then how? Right? And what can I learn, and then what can I take from that? And for me now, it's how am I going to take what I learned from your conversation about your mortgage business and integrate it into my speaking business, right? Because my points of focus, preparation, coaching, and execution, they're fundamental to life, not just my speech, but it's the stories, right?
Absolutely.
It's the stories of the people, the athletes and the coaches, and the opportunities that you have and the opportunities that you lose that make it something meaningful. So being around that high level of person, of achiever, is an outstanding way. And I would challenge people, find people who are better looking than you. Find people who are smarter, who are more successful, who come from a better family, all of those things. Get to know them. How do you do that? Well, find them, right? Go search those people out. They're there.
Right.
Great message there. Holy cow, I can't wait for the Mortgage Bankers of Jacksonville.
Me neither. When is that?
It's February 21st. 10 o'clock to 11:30. Bank of England Theater. East Boulevard. I can't wait. Wow.
Let's talk a little bit about the Mortgage Bankers Association there, because I don't think the word gets out enough about what you do. And this, like I said, I'm talking to a lot of nationally recognized real estate agents in their leadership positions at NAR and Florida Realtors and so forth, and how important it is right now from a legislative standpoint. I think I was telling you yesterday, the person I said, the NBA needs to get with the realtor associations and their RPAC and so forth, because insurance is going through the roof. The challenges, one of the biggest challenges we're having, obviously affordable housing, because there's such a demand here. Everyone wants to move to Jacksonville because we know the Jaguars are going to win a Super Bowl here soon, and they want to be here when it hits the ground.
Me too.
But what's the importance of the Mortgage Bankers Association and the message they deliver?
Well, first of all, the Mortgage Bankers Association is the fundamental of our careers on the mortgage side. It's been around since the 50s. We used to be able to raise a lot of money. We're challenged with that. We've got to raise money to be able to get our voice heard. I'll be going over to Tallahassee on the 30th of January, the rest of the state of Florida Mortgage Bankers presidents from different cities to be heard and have a voice to our legislative groups over there in Tallahassee to talk about everything from trigger leads to insurance issues, which are a huge challenge today, which we talked about on the previous podcast, which is affordability is even more compounded, not just high rates, but insurance rates doubling and even tripling, and getting that in front of the right people. And how do we find the solutions for affordable housing? Take our our workforce and give them sustainable homes that's at an availability to be able to have the American dream. All those things are hugely important, and we have to work in concert with our real estate brothers and sisters from the Northeast Florida Realtors Association to the Florida Association of Realtors. Together, one voice, one focus, and that goal is in front of us for the why, and then we come to the how, as Brian said, to get to that point. And I think it's a grind, and we've got to get that message. So if you're not supporting the Mortgage Bankers Association of Jacksonville, you're not supporting the Northeast Florida Realtor Association, you're wrong. You need to participate. It's a tell you to do this, and don't be afraid to reach your wallet and participate and support the events, because it's important to have that funding. It's huge.
You just gave me an idea, and teeing off what we were just talking about, being around the right people.
Yeah.
Do we have an invitation out to Mr. Rutherford? Do we
like
have an invitation out to Mr. Hudson, who
Yes.
lives in your former neighborhood, my neighborhood?
Yeah, your neighborhood.
And the current individual who's running for Cindy's seat.
Yeah, no doubt.
She lives in our neighborhood as well, Kim Kendall. So we need to get their invite and get them
We
there.
need to get their invite, get the juice.
Yeah.
So Terrence Freeman as well.
Yeah.
Some others that we can bring in the piece, because Jacksonville's an evolving powerhouse of a city. Northeast Florida is no longer a secret. We might as well make it strong and powerful with the right voices.
Can we raffle off maybe some Jaguar paraphernalia, maybe something that would maybe attract a few extra people to the show?
We'll see if we can tap Brian to help us out. Who knows?
See if we can contact one of those important people.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I've got a few contacts there as well. So we'll work on it. Great suggestions. Love it. This is an incredible show. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
Having a great time.
See, he's leaving it over to me. That's all right. That's all right. I could take control of this.
I mean, I could talk Jaguars all day, and I know Brian can. But to keep it on point, as mortgage athletes, the MAP, the Mortgage Athlete Podcast, where we're going today, being a 5-tool mortgage athlete is so difficult, because you have different conveyor belts to feed your income sphere. And I think the challenge today is the conveyor belts are evolving and changing. And resale agents have their struggles, side agents on the other side, your insurance partnerships, which is now a premium. It used to not necessarily be. Now it's an absolute premium to get with your insurance agent up front. Financial advisors, all those pieces in the Serengeti are evolving and changing. So our Serengeti of opportunity has evolved and changed. We've seen things move on your side. We feel things moving on the real estate and mortgage side every day. We have to evolve at the speed of business. I'd like to say that we're riding the wave, not inside the wave. So we got to stay in front of it somehow, Brian.
Well, if I have to bet, right now, sports gambling is still not legal in Florida. But
I thought that ad says it is. What's that ad that's always
that's Hard Rock.
If you're at Hard Rock Cafe.
Right. But if I'm betting anything, and I'm not a gambling man, but I'm betting on you.
Yes. Put me in, coach. The lead us through this, I accepted the MBA of Jacksonville presidency job to share, care, and allow others to be heard. And, I have a phrase, check your logos and labels at the door, be ready to explore. Come meet who your competition is, and you'll find out you're really your best friends. They'll be the first ones to pick you up, dust you off, and say, you know what, I can help you with that. Pull the audience to a 50-50, phone a friend, and you'll learn how to trade paint, trade information, work together for a common goal. You mentioned something earlier that got me really fired up, and it's the why. I'm in the mortgage business because there's something it provides to me that money can't buy, and that's called the zen of the business. The thrill of finding and allowing somebody to be a part of the journey of a home buyer getting their first house. That excitement going to the closing table, that's like scoring the touchdown. You get a touchdown, people get their home, they get their keys, and you kind of lose sight of everything other than the celebration of finding homeownership for somebody. It's incredible. Real estate agents, mortgage folks, everybody working together, insurance agents, all the stuff together at one time, and you close and you deliver the home journey of a home ownership. It's incredible.
Well, just to go back, I was thinking there, I was talking with Cindy Hayden yesterday. She's on the board at NAR, and the importance of you've been the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
You've been the tip of the spear. You have a great experience. Obviously, you have the, we know he has the gift of gab, right? Tom can talk to anyone.
Is that what
about
you call
anything.
it?
I call it the gift of gab.
Yes. Yes. I'm blessed.
But Tom can go in the room, and he definitely always has a great joke or a great story to tell. It has everybody laughing for sure, no doubt. You may not be that person. Someone might be listening to this, but we need to support those who are going, because right now I think Florida's on a cutting edge when it comes to real estate. With the surge since COVID, no one's experienced this kind of situation going on, and the prices going up, and then we got insurance going up at the same time, inflation here in the last 18 months. All the perfect storm, right, is going on, and now this is when the leadership getting to Tallahassee, getting to Washington, and getting those changes made, and we need to come and support. You don't have to be the guy in front of the room. Tom can be the guy in the front of the room, but like I said, we need to not only the butts in the seats, but a little donation wouldn't hurt to help the cause to get in front of the right people.
Well, I think the next generation, the next wave of understanding and taking the torch forward and making sure everybody that's been a loan officer or a real estate agent for less than a year understands the why and the how and what does this mean. I've been doing this a long time, over 30 plus years in the mortgage space, and I've grown up in it. It's all I know how to do. I love it, and the zen of the business is a gift that keeps on giving. The excitement and cherishing of people getting the keys to their house is incredible.
Well, it's not all you know how to do. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, when you first started, this opportunity didn't exist. You've become a podcaster, right?
Yeah.
You're a bit of a host. You're a bit of a motivational speaker. You're your own volition.
Yeah.
Many things.
He can motivate
do.
you. He is good at
Hey,
motivating.
there's nothing like getting snot blown out your nose and be ready to rock. Let's go.
Well, that ties back sort of to the whole idea of finding your frequency is that in an ever-changing environment, which the mortgage business is, which real estate I know personally is, which broadcasting is, you are constantly trying to tune it in. Do you know, and you guys are old enough to remember, when you turned the old radio on in the car and you would actually turn the dial, if you're at 104.3, it's if you're at 104.7, but you dial it in just right at 104.5 and boom, you are on and everything is clear.
Yes.
You hear everything loud and clear. And that, Tom, is a message that you send to people because you have a unique ability to make the problem and the solution clear to people.
Yes.
Great analogy.
I love it. Wow. Thank you. I feel great. Wow.
See, here I am making you feel good.
Yes,
and that's what you can expect on February 21st.
Let's finish up, because I know our fans out there are, the tens of thousands that are watching the show live here right now are seeing this Jaguar logo. Brian, give us a little perspective. After the game last week, what are obviously there's only certain things you talk about, but obviously there's a lot of gearing up. There's been some cleaning house already, which around the NFL is going.
That's it. Right. I mean, you see what's going on in Philadelphia now. I mean, with Eagles losing, what did they? They started 10-1 and they finished 11-6. And they bowed out.
5 of the last 6 games.
Yeah, they bowed out that way. There are some teams that pull the ripcord and change everything. Right. There's 6 or 7 jobs open, and then there are some teams at the top who just try to keep it going. And the Jaguars find themselves in the middle of the pack again at 9-8. Now, let's put it in perspective. That's 9 wins in back-to-back seasons, which hasn't happened since 2004, 2005. 19 years since they've had this phenomenon. But they've got to get over the top, right? Doug Peterson said at one point, in fact, it was after that crushing loss to the 49ers, and he stood in front of the media and said, this team hasn't done anything yet. Well, you push pause, you go, well, hold on. I mean, they ran off a 5-game winning streak at the end of last year, and they got into the playoffs, and well, a lot of teams can do that. But it isn't about doing it once. It's about doing it year after year with consistency, right? Consistency compounds and becomes something very, very powerful. Well, that's where the Jaguars are right now. There's going to be some inconsistencies as they replace the defensive coaching staff, as they try to figure out where their roster is weak and where they can make it strong, how to balance the salary cap and all of those things. But at least they're from a position now at 9-8 where they can get to 11-6 or 12-5. Now they have 17 games. It throws me off, right? I knew 6-10 and 10-6.
Right.
They're in a position where they can do it because they have I think they've got the coach and the quarterback, and that matters.
Right.
And in between, how they did it this year, right? Who they brought in, how they schemed things up, it didn't work well enough. It didn't work. You get to 8-3, and then things go sideways.
Yep.
Adversity, which we
Yes.
all encounter.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they got to get back to the drawing board here this year. They've got to take advantage of this window that's open. When you have an elite quarterback,
Yep.
you have an opportunity. They've got this one, and they don't want to miss it.
I love
Yep.
it.
But I can't tell you what they're going to do other than they're going to sign Josh Allen, right?
Yes,
And I
let's
believe
go
they'll
Josh
bring
Allen.
Calvin Ridley back. But I mean, those are all complex mathematical equations
Right.
to make all the pieces fit together. But they are acutely aware of their shortcomings, acutely,
Yeah, I
right?
bet.
because they have sat in some painful meetings in the
Yes,
last week.
I bet.
And so there's their why. I don't want to sit in those meetings anymore. I want to hold the trophy up.
How difficult is, we talked about Nick Saban pre-show that, he retired and live. We think it's the
Yeah.
portal and the things going on there. Dealing with the salary cap and figuring everyone's contract out. I mean, there's just like a room of accountants just sitting in there,
It's
number
high
crunchers.
finance. Yeah, it's high finance.
Yeah.
Guy that does it for the Jaguars, a guy named Tim Walsh, and of course he's not the only person. But it's here's the complex issue, right? You have $200 million to spend in any given year. How you apportion that, how you keep that going forward. The rules change all the time too, right? They're
Yeah.
constant because the league is a partner with the Players Association, and they have a collective bargaining agreement that sets forth rules based on income. And income levels change. If you're someone who goes out and signs a $15 million a year naming rights deal in Las Vegas, just to throw it out there. Well, that all goes into the pot, right? It raises the DGA, the designated gross revenue, DGR. And then
For the league.
for the whole league.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to spend to a certain amount of the cap. I think it's 90% on a 3-year rolling average. I mean, it gets tricky.
Yeah.
Again, they're good with the numbers, but it's the rules that are always changing that they've got to stay in compliance with.
Right.
Kind of sounds like the mortgage guidelines.
Well, I
Sure,
always,
it's very similar to that.
looking back, I was a Giants fan for a long time. Obviously, followed Tom Coughlin and so forth. And one thing I noticed when they won was those guys in their first contract, if they have to produce,
Yeah.
which, if I'm not mistaken, I think Detroit has got a bunch of young guys. Green Bay has a bunch of young guys
Green Bay's the youngest
who
team
are
in the league.
producing. Yeah, who are producing. Who are actually, they made the squad, they, type of thing, and they're actually in the game and scoring points or, making tackles and so forth, and how important it is to, in the whole grand scheme of things. Obviously, it's the first guy. It's that second contract.
You're
and everyone's
hitting-
going, why are these guys leaving? It's, well, dollars.
Well, you're,
Right?
you're hitting on a particular area of interest with me, and that is as these guys make more and more and more money, right? There's so much money, and as I just said, you have to spend a 90% of the cap on a 3-year rolling average. There are going to be guys who are going to be paid way beyond their performance level because teams need to, right?
Interesting.
That doesn't work in the real world,
No,
does it?
no.
We don't get paid way beyond what we produce because somebody has to spend that money. It doesn't quite work that way. One of the things, and I don't know how you fix this, you've got to have that hunger. Football is not a nice game.
No.
It's not a game for well-adjusted men. It requires you not only to play a very fizzy, nasty game, but also to prepare to play that physical, nasty game.
All the time.
It costs you time. It costs you events with your family.
Yes.
It costs you don't go out and eat the big meal, right? I mean, you're always dialed in to a degree that most people aren't. Well, when you get that big check, you kind of start thinking I've arrived, right?
right.
I'm going to protect my shoulder this
Yes.
week. I'm going to go and eat that steak because I earned it,
Yeah.
right? I'm interested to see if the NFL can sustain itself with everybody fat and happy, or if you need to have that edge, that hunger. I think we all know you better have that edge and that hunger. When you get satisfied on the football field, things get dangerous.
That's my favorite phrase. There's 2 things that'll move you in your life, and that's called fear and hunger.
Yeah.
One of those 2 are going to get you to stand up and shout, and if you got both, you're going to run.
Explains a lot, doesn't
Yes, it does. Right there. Boom. I love it.
Gentlemen, great show.
Great show.
it? Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Brian.